Hey guys, welcome back to another DIY video from Audi C7 owners. Today we're going to be installing front and rear sway bars on the C7. We got them from Eurocode. We're also going to be installing the front and rear end links, showing you how to do all that. We've already got the car lifted up, and so we're going to start with the rear because we've been told that the rear is a lot more difficult to do than the front. So we'll go ahead and knock out the hard part first. And anyways, I'll go over the equipment as we're doing the video. Just make sure whenever you guys are doing this, you take special note of the orientation of the front and rear sway bars. So when you get under there, you see which way they're facing, take a picture, make a mental note, draw it out however you want to. That way you know how to put in your sway bars you're replacing them with, because you can get them in backwards and then they won't line up and you're going to be upset with yourself that you put them in backwards. So make a note of that and we'll get this going.
The first step you're going to want to do is to use a long screwdriver to pry your mufflers out of your exhaust hangers on each side. You're going to need the extra wiggle room above them to get your OEM sway bar out and to put your new sway bar into place. Next, remove the 16mm bolt from the bottom of the sway bar end link, and then you're going to be removing the bracket bolts, which are 10mm triple squares. You're going to do this on both sides of the sway bar.
Alright, you can stop the recording. That's
Yep.
Let me know when. Good.
Good.
Yep.
Alright.
Once you've removed all the bolts holding the sway bar onto the vehicle, you can start to maneuver it out. Remember, this is where having the exhaust loosened up comes in handy. Try and do exactly what I do here, and you can see me maneuvering the end links to where I can get them kind of fished through, and basically I'm just going to pull it out to the right side of the car towards the passenger side. I'm going to spin it around as it goes, and you can see I don't need to take the wheel off or anything. I was able to maneuver it back. Also, a side note, this job is a lot easier if you've got a second person with you helping. You'll see my friend here occasionally assisting me with some things, but if you have a second person to help, this job is going to be a lot easier.
Let's take note of how we do this. Nice.
This is just a quick clip to compare the new Eurocode rear sway bar to the OEM rear sway bar. You can see the subtle differences there. It's just a little bit bigger. Okay, the next step is going to be to remove the OEM brackets from your OEM sway bar. You'll be reusing these to mount the new sway bar to the vehicle. You will not be reusing the bolts or anything like that. Those are one-time use, and you need to replace those with new bolts and new nuts. So if you don't have those, you can get the hardware kits from Eurocode, or you can go to your local dealership, and I'm pretty sure you can probably find them on ECS Tuning. But do not reuse your old hardware other than these brackets. As you can see, mine are stuck on here pretty good. I had already sprayed them down with some WD-40 and then used a screwdriver to pry them apart so I could pull them off by hand.
It's trying. Good call.
Next, we need to prep the bar for install, and you have to do that by putting lubrication onto the bar underneath the bushing so it doesn't squeak. But one thing I'm going to do is kind of an old school trick when installing sway bars. I'm going to put some gas line Teflon tape down. I put the blue tape there on the outside of the bushing so I knew exactly where I needed to tape out to without excessively taping over the bar. So I'm going to do about 2 layers of it. I'm going to tape out to the blue tape and then back again. And then after that you put on the grease, which Eurocode supplied with the kit. And once you're done putting the grease on, you can either use your finger like I do to smear the grease around, or an easier way that I did on the front sway bar is just put the bushing on and rotate it around the bar to distribute the grease around it. This is really, really sticky grease, by the way. Once you get it on your fingers, you're going to need to go wash your hands with Dawn. So if you've got latex gloves, I suggest wearing them when you're doing this. Unfortunately, I ran out.
Can you give me a paper towel, maybe? Thank you. Almost. Sure, wiping it down here.
Once you get your bushing onto your sway bar, then you can get your OEM bracket and fit it over the bushing. Or you can wait till you get the bar into place. The bracket may get knocked off when you're trying to feed it over your mufflers, so either way it doesn't really matter. I put mine on and fed it through. I think one might have fallen off in the process, but it wasn't a huge deal. I just put it right back on.
Looks pretty good to me.
If you buy the dust covers for your end links, this is the only way we figured out how to get them on both ends. It is a pain in the butt. You've got two side holes, which is where your bearings are going to go into your end links, and then you've got a really small hole which feeds down over the center part of the end link. And basically we just took two screwdrivers, put them in through the bearing sides and out the center hole, and use a good bit of strength to stretch the that smaller hole, then have your friend push in the end link and then rotate it to where it aligns with the holes correctly. And we do this for the rear end links and the front adjustable end links. Honestly, I do not know how you would do this if you were doing it by yourself. You have to have another person to do it. If you know of another trick to get this done by yourself, please let me know in the comments below. Okay, once you have your end links prepped and ready to go, you're going to attach your bearings. If you've got the dust covers on, you just need to push them in through the rubber hole, seat them into the hole that's in the end links, and the rubber will kind of go around the bearings. And a good little tip there is to spin the bearings once it gets into the rubber boot. Once you spin it, that'll help seat the rubber boot all the way around the bearing. But once you get them in, you just seat them into the end links, and then you're going to attach it to the bar. Make sure you attach it to the outside of the bar and not to the inside like I'm trying to do there. My friend luckily pointed out that I was about to make a big mistake. But we're going to put it on the inner hole of the sway bar, which is designed to have a more sporty feel and eliminate understeer. The outer hole doesn't do it as much, so Eurocode recommends doing it on the inner hole, and that's what we did. Once you get the bolt through and you get it hand tightened, you're going to get two 16mm sockets, and you're going to tighten it all the way. And then once you get it tightened to the point that you can feel it getting good and tight, get your torque wrench out, and you're going to torque it down to 29.5 foot-pounds plus a 90-degree turn. As you can see, you still have play in the end link so that you can maneuver it to get it into place once it's in the car. Okay, now it's time to put the sway bar back into the car. Reading the forums, everybody complained about this, said it was a pain in the butt to do and they needed to take the wheels off and blah blah blah. We didn't have to. This was the first attempt we did, and it took us 48 seconds exactly. And if you just do exactly how I do it here, try and do your best, put it in, align this way over the top of your exhaust, and then rotate it around, it should work for you. Remember to keep an eye on how you have your bar aligned. You don't want to put this in the wrong way and then have to take it out and do it over again. But this wasn't nearly as tough as we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, look at you. Got that?
Alright, let's pause it or stop it and we'll...
Once you've got your bar practically into place, you'll have to do a little bit of maneuvering to get it seated correctly, but just jiggle it around, make it work for you. Get everything aligned up to the holes as best as you can as far as where your end link goes and where the brackets go. and it should fit up there pretty well without any resistance. If you have a lot of resistance and it's not going in smoothly, then something's up. But once you get it up there, go ahead and get your brackets, put them over your bushings, and start to align them with the holes in the vehicle where you're going to install the bolts. Once you got it aligned, get your bolts started. You want to hand tighten those, but do not tighten them all the way down, because you're going to need a little bit of wiggle room to get your rear end link bolt in and get it aligned up.
Alright, you can stop it because this is just hand tightening from here. Get the light.
Once you have your brackets hand tightened down, then you're going to move to your end links, and you're going to hand tighten the 16mm bolt through the bottom of the end link into the car. And remember, this should all be new hardware. That includes the bracket bolts that you just hand tightened and the end link bolts. But you're going to hand tighten that all the way down. This can be kind of difficult to get threaded because you're going through the bearings and there's a little bit of a gap between the end link and the car body, but you just have to push forward on the end link and you'll feel it catch.
I'm gonna have to get closer. I don't know if you're seeing anything here. Okay, you can stop it.
I'm going like back and forth.
Once you have everything hand tightened and you've got all your end link bolts started and you've got your bracket bolts in there, you can go ahead and tighten everything down. Your bracket bolts need to be torqued to 18.4 foot-pounds, and the 16mm bolts attaching your end links to the car get torqued down to 29.5 foot-pounds plus a 90-degree turn.
Another 90-degree turn.
And you might be asking yourself, why I'm giving my bracket bolts an extra 90-degree turn, and the truth is I did that on accident.
And 45. Alright. You start recording?
Once you've got everything tightened down and then torqued to spec, the last thing you need to do to finish the installation of the rear sway bar is to rehang your exhaust. This is simple. I didn't get a video of it because it's self-explanatory, but little tip, spray the rod that comes off of the muffler with a little bit of spray lube and put that into the rubber exhaust hanger and then push it together, get it started. Then use a set of adjustable pliers to kind of press them together and it'll snap right in. Now it's time to do the front sway bar and the front end links, and this is a little bit easier than the rear sway bar as long as you have the right tools. Okay, to get the front sway bar install started, I wanted to show you where the sway bar meets the bottom of the end link, and it's going to come into focus here with the light shining on it. There's a 16mm bolt that goes through with a 16mm nut on the other side, and the tricky part is a deep well socket on a wrench, at least for my tools, wouldn't fit on the left side, and a regular wrench with a short 16mm socket wouldn't fit on the right side. So I had to go out and I had to buy a 16mm ratcheting wrench and a just regular 16mm open wrench to be able to take those off. But I didn't have those at this time when I was filming, so I decided just to go to the top of the end link and remove the 16mm bolt attaching the end link to the car. And it's tight, but with a short 16mm socket, I was able to loosen that bolt enough to where I could get my nice big giant hairy arm in there and loosen the rest by hand. After I got the top end link bolts out, I used my impact gun and a 13mm socket to remove the bracket bolts. Once you remove these bracket bolts and you've got the top end link bolt out, it's just going to fall out of place. There's nothing restricting the sway bar from falling down. It's got a hook in the curve of the sway bar. You'll see it's going to catch on some suspension components, but it's just going to come straight down. Once again, remember to take note of the alignment of your sway bar as it comes down so that you know how to put it back in. What I did, when it came down and I got it removed, I just pulled it straight out from the car and I set it there so that I could align my new sway bar in front of it and take note of how to put it back into the car. Here's another quick comparison clip showing the new front sway bar compared to the old OEM one. The Eurocode front sway bar is a good bit beefier than the OEM one. If you're going to be installing the adjustable end links, you're going to need one of the OEM end links to use as a guide to measure your new adjustable end links. If you're using the OEM end links, then you don't really have to worry about this step, especially if you were able to get the bar out without removing the entire end link from the vehicle. Once again, you need to remove the bracket off of the OEM bar. These were not nearly as stuck on as my rear sway bars, but this was the first one, so I still sprayed it with some lube just to see to break it up. But honestly, I was able to just pry both of them off by hand. I really didn't even need to use the screwdriver. Okay, here's the Eurocode adjustable end links. You can see me removing the bearings, getting ready to put the dust boot covers on, which is not in video here. You put them on the same way you would put the rear ones on that we showed you earlier. Works the exact same way with the two screwdrivers and whatnot. But you can see I loosened up the tightening collars and I'm starting to spin the ends of the end link out, getting them adjusted. And I'm going to use a bolt through the OEM end link and put it through the adjustable one and then line it up and make sure that it's the exact same length as the OEM end link. Once you have your end link adjusted to the exact length that you need, go ahead and tighten the tightening collars all the way down. It's a 16mm nut if you have that wrench, or you can use an adjustable pair of pliers or something like that, and you just want to give it a good crank to make sure they're nice and tight and the end link won't adjust on you as you're maneuvering it around in the car. Also, make sure that the end link faces are straight, and they don't need to be angled at all. They need to be straight just like the OEM ones.
Out of frame.
Yeah, and so you can end it though.
If you're using the adjustable end links with the dust boot covers, getting the bearings into those is a little different than the rear end links. So what I did to do that was I just got the end links into the side hole and I pushed them into place into the end link, and then I grabbed the dust boot cover and I just pulled it out and over the bearing itself to form a good seal to prevent any dirt or debris from getting in there and causing premature wear. After you've gotten everything assembled for your end links and you've gotten them adjusted to the proper length, you can prep your bar for install. You're going to do the same thing as you did on the rear sway bar, so I'm not going to show it in a video here for the front one as well, but you just Teflon tape your bar, put the grease on and distribute it, and put your bushing on, and then you're ready to go. If you're using the adjustable end links, those have to get mounted to the car first, and you're going to attach that with brand new hardware. Remember, just like the rear, all your hardware underneath here needs to be brand new as well, so get a fitment kit, or I'm sorry, get a hardware kit from Eurocode or go buy it from the dealership. But you're going to install the top of the end link into the car first using a brand new 16mm bolt. You're going to torque it down to 29.5 foot-pounds plus a 90-degree turn. You'll still have a little bit of play if you need to adjust it at all, but it'll be nice and secure up there and you won't have to mess with it again. Once your end links are back on the car, then you can get your bar in there and just feed it in the same way you took the OEM one out. Get it positioned to where you need to, and get your brackets from the OEM bar and put them over the studs, and use your new 13mm nuts to tighten them to the car. You don't want to tighten them all the way down. You want to leave a little bit of wiggle room so that you can adjust the bar to get the bottom of the end links installed. So just screw them up a little bit, but do not tighten them all the way down.
Your shadow.
Once they're in place and the bar is attached to the car, you can go to your sway bar end links and maneuver those to attach them to the sway bar. You want to attach them to the outer hull of the sway bar for your regular street driving use. If you're going to track the car, then you can move it to the inner hull, otherwise leave it on the outside. But once again, you're going to torque the 13 millimeter nuts to 18.5 foot-pounds, and then you're going to torque the 16 millimeter bolt that connects your end links to your sway bar to 29.5 foot-pounds plus a 90-degree turn once again. Here are a couple pictures of the adjustable end links attached to the sway bar. You can see some paint missing, and that's my fault for dragging the sway bar across the ground as I was pushing it in and underneath to maneuver it into place. As always, guys, if you have any questions or comments about the install, leave them in the comments below. Give the video a like if you found this helpful, and if you will, subscribe to the channel. It helps me. This is a video that can be used not only for C7, A6s, and A7s, but it can also be used for the B8 and B8.5 S4s as well. They're very similar cars, and there's only minor differences. So if you know someone who's struggling with their S4s, send them this video. As always, I'll be putting links in the description below to the products here. There's also some installation guides from Eurocode that I'll have links to, and there'll be a link to an Audi Zine thread forum that'll have a little bit more detailed info. And any updates that I think of or things I noticed that I messed up in the video, I'll put that in the description as well. So anyways, thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.